What's up, guys? It's Isaac here at Tobacco Road Harley-Davidson, and I have your pre-owned bike of the week, one of my favorite Harley-Davidson models that's offered. This 2022 Harley-Davidson Softail Lowrider ST. So why is it one of my favorites? Well, if you've been watching any of my past videos, you know I'm a big Softail fan because I'm a big light touring fan. You know, a bike that's set up, it's agile, it's easy to go whip around, and it's stable enough to really handle, you know, those long highway hauls, and just something comfortable you can easily ride all day. And this bike is it. Looking at this bike is pre-owned, so it's got a couple of features which are actually pretty cool little features here. It does have a taller Harley-Davidson windshield. It does have one of my favorite turn signals that you can get from Harley. They have a really nice halo. It does have forward controls, so for a little bit taller riders that really like these bikes, but they feel a little bit cramped on those mid controls, this one's got forwards. This is the Harley-Davidson Sundowner seat. Very cozy for the rider, and especially if you're going to be having a passenger, they're not going to want really any other seat once you put this one on. And the passenger will also appreciate that you have this backrest, so it makes a great little spot to let your passenger lean on, or strap luggage to, or of course leave your helmet on. And this bike does have heated grips, so I might have to try those out if I shot this bike any earlier or any later. I might need to crank those heated grips up. And then of course, one of my favorite features that have been, or at least one of my favorite modifications that were made to this bike, and that is this gauge right here. I'm a huge fan of the Lowrider ST, but if you've seen any other STs, then you know that this clamp is actually just your gauge is actually just a little top clamp there. I mean, it looks like a calculator almost. Previous owner took one of my favorite gauges and they actually mounted it, they replaced that top clamp, they mounted it to the bars. This actually looks like a setup from a Nightster too. This actually looks like the Nightster riser setup there, so actually it's a little bit lower. So that's pretty cool. You've got your analog tack, and I'll show you the other stuff in there later, but it's not taking away from any of the view, and it doesn't interfere with this right here. So I'm excited. I'm gonna have to show you that here in just a bit. That's the Lowrider ST, the custom features on it. Then of course it's ST, so you've got frame mounted fairings, so it's going to block all of the wind from you, especially with these little guys too. You got that perk, you got the 117 heavy breather, 2-2 exhaust. This is stock exhaust, unfortunately. And then you do have these detachable bags. Yes, they are asymmetrical. No, it is not easy to tell. There's a locking clamshell bag. I forgot how smooth the new keys were. That's nice. It's way nicer than what mine is now. But you've got really good luggage options. And this bike has the little inserts there. So you can take these bags up to your house and you can fill them up with your luggage and gear, and then you can just set it right in the bike. And then when you get to your hotel or wherever you're staying at, you can just zip it up, take it out, and take it with you. So that's pretty neat. I like those. So, and you can fit a really good amount of luggage in here. And especially if you put stuff on the back seat, yeah, this is a great bike, great touring bike. And of course, you can ride with a passenger with that backrest and these flip down passenger pegs right there. But other than that, this is the Lowrider ST, and we're gonna go rip it. This does have ABS, as you can see, letting us know right there. And once we get rolling, it does all its checks. That should go away if everything is correct, which it should be. Yeah, this is an ST. I love these bikes. These are so much fun. I used to have one of these seats, and I really liked it. It was super cozy, especially when I had forwards. I don't really like this seat with mid controls, but with forwards, it works out really nice. Let's go see what this thing's about. Sport touring. All right, so one thing I'm going to notice right out the gate is that this air cleaner, as gorgeous as this heavy breather is, it is definitely way better with mid controls. Forward controls, it is going to be very familiar with my shin by the end of this video, unfortunately. Man, I love the ST. 117 Milwaukee 8 on the Softail platform. It's where it's at. And then it's the Lowrider. So I mean, with this tire setup, just everything about this bike, it just handles so good. And this bike can handle even better too. Now that there's Olin's straight from Harley-Davidson with the Screaming Eagle kits available for both the rear and the front of these bikes. I've seen a couple of those bikes. I haven't ridden one of those yet, but I hear I hear folks say that like these bikes handle really good, but once you do that, it's so hard to go back to anything else. So easy fix with that is I just gotta have my foot a little bit lower on that foot peg than I normally would. Let's see how the rear suspension does. Ooh, don't want to hit that hole. That's a crater now. Either way, it's pretty easy to adjust. You get your preload set based on the combined weight of the rider, the gear, and the passenger. Dog, what are you doing? Thank you. Let's see, we might... This is definitely gonna turn yellow. Give a little blip to get around that, a little swerve to get around that. We'll take... This bike, you gotta take the curvy route. You gotta go with the curvy route on this bike. That's what this bike is made to do. It's made... That's kind of the beauty of the sport touring line, is that it's... That was kind of the issue folks were having. You know, they were having, you know, with these nice, comfortable, you know, recliners of bikes that you have with the Ultras and the Limiteds. I mean, they're so comfortable, but folks really wanted a little bit more performance out of them. You know, they wanted a bike that they could push a little bit harder in the corner and be a little bit more fun for this kind of around town city riding. And so that's the beauty with this lowrider STs, that it's small and light enough that, you know, a day like today, you can go run errands around town. You know, you've got plenty of luggage room. You can throw all your gear in there. Not a problem. Not a problem at all. Excuse me, ma'am. But then you want something stable enough for the highway, get some of that wind off of you. You got this, you know, this light fender mounted, this light frame mounted fairing that does beautiful work, keeps this wind off of you, and you know, and then this windshield. I mean, this is the little bit taller aftermarket windshield from Harley, so it's helping kick that up even higher off of me. It's been absolutely gorgeous around Raleigh here lately. We're kind of in that dangerous, for any folks that are doing some like longer distance riding, we're kind of in that kind of sketchy territory where, you know, it's a gorgeous day, but if you mess around and you take too long to get back on the way home, you know, it might be 80 degrees during the day, but then you know, you hung around somewhere longer than you meant to, and now you got to drive home and it's 45 degrees or something, you know, or you stay somewhere for a couple days where it's 80 and then it's 30 when you got to head back. So I'm a big lowrider ST fan. These bikes handle so good and they're so much fun to ride. It's a 5-gallon tank, so you got plenty of good range. Which I'm going to show you some of this stuff in the Speedo. So again, one of my favorite Speedos. I wish this bike came stock with this Speedo right here. I do think I like the top mounted on this bike a little bit better, but I like how this kind of stayed true to the ST. You know, kind of stayed a little bit more true to the ST's design of keeping everything nice and low and hidden, so you have a nice wide open view, but you still get all those nice benefits from the gauge that you might see on the lowrider, that you would typically see on the lowrider S. So what you got here, you got the analog tack. I have my speed I can see right there. That's what I can always see is my speed and my fuel gauge and what gear I'm in. But what I can switch between is my digital tack, which I don't really need my analog and my digital. Miles on the bike, you'll see this bike has just over 4,000, about 4,200. You see I have my trip A, I have my trip B, I have my fuel range, about 146 miles, and my clock, and then I'm back with my RPM. So I'm going to go ahead and, I don't know, I'm going to throw it on. Typically, on Softails, I typically leave it on digital tack, but I have analog tack, so it's a little redundant to be using both. Another thing I can see really well is my gear, so that's another cool little feature that I can always see. So, but here we are, a beautiful day to cruise down Lake Wheeler Road on this lowrider ST. If this bike was mine, I'd have to get, if I kept the forwards, I would definitely have to swap out this air cleaner, which brings up an excellent point. These 117s, especially like this lowrider ST, it's got such good power. Power's fantastic. However, the simple work that a tune can do with just an intake, which I guess you don't really have to swap intakes because this is a heavy breather, but if you had another one that could spring in a lot of air, similar to this one but didn't stick out quite as far, would be nice. But an intake, you know, full stage one, intake, an exhaust, and a tune, you do those three things, and these bikes, you know, they become completely different. For the most of all the, you know, stage kits and the biggest jumps, you know, not everybody has to do a stage 3 or a stage 4. You don't have to. Are they fun? Yes, absolutely. I mean, more horsepower, more torque. Of course it's more fun. But the biggest, most instant change, bang for the buck, I'd say, would probably be doing a stage 1. Stage 1 or 2, you know? Because the exhaust is probably going to come off anyway to get to the cam. There's sometimes a few more parts you got to do, but you know, best bang for the buck, you know, you really want power, stage 2. But if you just want, you know, let me back up. So, you know, if you just want a bunch more power, if you just want, well, let me see, if you just want a considerable amount more power pretty quickly, stage 2. Easy, done. Throw a cam in, a cam and a tune, great. On top of that, stage 1. But most efficiently, you know, best bang for the buck, that stage 1 is gonna, I think, give you the best instant change, you know, because it's gonna it's kind of telling the bike like, hey, I know you're programmed to do this, but I want you to be a little bit more responsive. And being able to tell the bike to do that makes this bike ride so much better and feel so much quicker. Let's see, let me drop it in here. All right, hopefully these guys, hopefully you go left. We're gonna go right. Look at how gorgeous this is. Look at this. This is where this bike was made to roam. Ah, man. Just soak up some of this scenery here. This is motorcycling right here. These bars do have me in a little bit of a lower spot too. I'd probably want to go personally a little bit higher up. I just like to be kind of more straight up when I ride, but you know, as aggressive as you can ride this bike, and since this bike is set up for somebody a little bit taller with the forwards and a little bit lower bars, a little bit taller rider, you know, pushing over that 6 foot mark, you know, this bike would probably feel perfect for you. I'll let this car get ahead a little bit. I'll do some pulls and things like that later. No, you don't really have to see those. What you do need to see is how this bike handles some of these turns. Yeah, I need to back way off on this guy, because this is where this bike shines, handling turns like this. You know, I've got my gear loaded up, I'm going off on a far trip somewhere or something like that, but now I get to a curve. And this bike handles it so beautifully. Fortunately, the Nissan's keeping us a little bit more tame. I mean, you've got that 117, so you've got so much torque down low. And you've got good brakes too. I've got a Softail Sport Glide that I typically ride, and it's basically set up to be a lowrider at this point. But the beauty of the lowrider is that it's a little bit taller everywhere, and it's got better braking. So you've got really good brakes. What on earth is that? There's a massive radio tower in their backyard. Alright, this is another good corner to hit. Let's do it. Ah! Brother. Isn't there another curvy road around here? We're gonna run Holly Springs Road on this one. That's probably one of the better curvy roads in the area for sure. That's gonna be a good one for you guys to see. Also, look how stable this bike is. It's stable, but it's so easy to just flick it and send it right where you want. It's a low center of gravity, so I mean it's relatively easy to bring it on around. Front tire is a little bit skinnier, so it's not too hard to tip in, but it's got enough grip that you're able to still grab pretty well. And it's a little bit wider too, so you don't have to worry about it getting sucked into train tracks and rain grates as badly. Storm grates and you know, drawbridges, things like that, they're not the most pleasant on really any bike. I want to say on a little bit fatter tire bikes with a little bit bigger tires, I want to say they feel a little bit better. But if you ever want one of the worst situations to drive on, I highly recommend driving the Mackinac Bridge up in the northern part of Michigan. If you hate drawbridges or you hate driving over grates on a motorcycle, wait until it's cold and raining and the wind's blowing bad, and then ride the grates on the Mackinac Bridge. Try that out. Let me know how much fun you have. Definitely, for me, that's definitely kind of in my top 10 of like the most times on a motorcycle where I was not having a good time. It's kind of one of those where you just sit there and think, and you're like, you know, dog, I'm kind of not having a good time. Oh, I have heated grips. Look at that. You go ahead. So this is, what is it, 6? I think you typically have like 6 settings. We're gonna put it on 2 and see how that does. I'll go ahead and crank them up 3. See how they do. Got a little bit thicker gloves on. That's a really nice little perk if you really want kind of the complete package. Some hand guards too. Some hand guards and some heated grips, and you are good to go for the winter. If you want to get real fancy, a heated seat. I don't know if there are really many heated seats available for Softails. I know I've seen some for the baggers, but there's got to be. Someone's got to have one now. You know, like I was saying, you know, the temperature fluctuates so much. Go ahead and throw some heated grips on. That way you don't have to be like me and hold your motor when it's winter. Keep your hands on the bars. So this is one of the more curvy roads in the area. It's not the cleanest road though. I mean like the smoothest road. So you kind of gotta be a little bit careful. You can't go too crazy on it. Sitting about the 3,000 RPM mark, 3rd gear. That's about a good place to hit some of these curves in a second. I'm going to ease up, give that guy some room, so we can see what this bike will do. Do the complimentary look behind us. We're all good. Ooh, 3 is a little warm. Let's bump it down to 2. It's nice having options. It lets you use a little bit lighter gloves too, so that way you can keep all that dexterity, which is very nice. I think 4th gear might handle this a little bit better. So you can't really move around in this seat very much, but it does lock you in really well, which is a nice perk. And welcome to the show. And ease it up just a little bit. Set it up. And bring it through just like this. There it is. It's going too slow. Let's finish it out strong here. This nice little section right here. There's a lot of turnout roads, so you do need to be careful. But this road has its perks. Oh, we gotta go through the nice scenic part that I haven't done in quite a while. Hello. Thank you for... That's the downside of having such a beautiful motorcycle like this, is people are like, oh man. People get so locked in on you and they're like, man, that is gorgeous. Then they kind of drift into your lane and they're like, oh no. So, It's tough being pretty. But it's fun being pretty fast. Gosh knows, these bikes handle it so nicely. They want to rip. They want to go quick. And that's kind of what sets this bike apart from some of your other light touring bikes. Well, this is pre-owned, so let's talk pre-owned. So talking about the bike that's in this bike's same category as a light tour, but kind of on the opposite side of the spectrum. So we kind of have our light touring, and we have our sport touring, and then we have our cruiser. This one I would contrast to the Heritage. If you want a light touring bike, then I would typically lean you towards the Heritage or the Lowrider ST. Now, if you're thinking you just want to cruise, you know, of course they're in the same category, so they're both going to do the same job. Great, they're going to do the same job really, really well. So then, you know, if you like the aesthetics of one more than the other one, then, you know, go with that one. Go with the one that your heart desires, right? But there are minor differences between the two to really kind of make them a little bit better for certain types of riders. So if you're looking at doing a little bit more cruising, you know, just light, easy riding, but you still want some of that power, then Heritage. You know, you got a 114, it's great power. You got locking saddlebags. I'll have to look and see how the luggage compares to these two as far as capacity, but it's pretty close. It's very comparable. Very comparable amounts of luggage you can store between this one and the Heritage. But they're both kind of that hard plastic on the inside, and they're lockable, which is fantastic. So, oh, it's a pretty lake. I don't know if I really see that one much. Oh, I see that one. Ah, this is where we're at. I just don't come from this way, hardly ever. Gorgeous. This is another really good road for around here that I don't want to be behind a box truck for. But if you kind of lean more towards the performance side, you want a little bit more power, you want to lean a little bit harder, but you still want to do some cruising, then the Lowrider ST fits in that bracket beautifully, right? Because it's got a little bit more lean. It's typically has mid controls. This one has forwards though, but it still has this old school look. I mean, it's designed after those old FXRs, you know, your FXRTs, the original Sport Glides there. Which brings up to the next point. You know, if you're kind of looking pre-owned and you want something kind of in the middle between the two, then the Sport Glide is also a really good option. The biggest downside to the Sport Glide is it only has a 107. Now, the nice part about a few of the nice parts about them is that they do have really cool rims. They do have inverted front suspension. They're set up for a passenger too. They have the same bags as the Lowrider ST. They just sit a little bit lower. It's a quick detached front fairing, but it's only the 107, and it's only a single rotor up front. So they really handle that. They kind of bridge that gap between the Lowrider ST and the Softail Heritage a little bit better. But again, if you're on light touring and you want cruiser, then I'd probably recommend the Heritage. But if you want more over here with the sport touring, welcome to this guy. And there's beautiful scenery. All three of which bikes have cruise control, which is a lovely thing to have. Yeah, I mean, this is a Raleigh, but it's still very pretty. Look at this. It looked better coming from the other way, but this grass is still pretty green. Ah, man, look at that. Little archway. I'm here for it. Oh, I haven't done a pull yet. Yeah, no stock exhaust, but once you get over like 4,000 RPMs and you just Just crank on it a little bit. It kind of opens up. Kind of sounds pretty nice. This bike is kind of the perfect balance between, you know, comfortable but not too easy. You know, certain baggers, we won't name names, but certain baggers, they kind of get a little bit too easy. They don't have enough rumble to them, so they don't really feel like a motorcycle or like a Harley. This has just the right amount where it's comfortable and it's easy, but it's still rowdy. You know, it's got just the right amount of rowdy motorcycle to it. Oh, did I mention these bags are quick detach? This bike looks pretty good without the bags too. I kind of like it. It's not bad at all. She ain't too shabby out there. It looks good when you take those bags off. But as good as the bags look on there, it's so convenient, and it's convenient as it is to have storage options. So, you know, you go to work and then you're like, I need to go pick up this on the way home. Or you're like, I really don't like wearing a backpack. Saddlebags. Saddlebags will do it. You know, such good lean, such good power, such good braking. Heated grips are nice too, especially in the old winter months. Make sure nobody was about to come rolling through there hot. Well, thank you for riding along with us here, and this is your pre-owned bike of the week. This 2022 Harley-Davidson Lowrider ST. So a ton of fun to ride. Great power, great braking, great suspension, great aftermarket features, some heated grips, taller windshield. You got your big fairing up there too, detachable bags. I mean, just an excellent light touring bike for someone that wants to cruise, but especially for the rider that's looking to put a bike through its paces out there a little bit. Enjoy a little bit more spirited encounter out on the road. So if that's you, or you just want to know a little bit more about this bike, maybe caught your eye, or maybe one of our other ones did, then be sure to visit our website or come see us here in person. We'd rather you come see us. Come get some coffee. Come hang out with us. So in the meantime, ride safe, and we hope to see you soon.